Hello, my name is Shawn Mosh, and I love to teach people to use their Cricut at my website, shawnmosh.com. I strongly believe that once you learn to use all the different functions in Cricut Design Space, you can create anything you want. And that's exactly what I plan to show you with today's project. So let's get started. If you are doing print and cut projects, the very first thing you're going to want to do is calibrate your machine. If you haven't done print and cut projects for a while, you need to recalibrate your machine. This is because Cricut recently updated their print size and the way the registration marks show up. To the left, you'll see the old way, and it used to print out with a border that went all the way around the images. On the right, you'll see the new way, and that is only printing the registration marks in the corners. So this allows us to do larger print and cut images. So to start off with, I am going to walk you through the steps of how to calibrate your machine for your Cricut print and cut projects. In the upper right corner of the screen, you're going to see your name. That's your profile. And under your profile, you'll see settings. Once you click on settings, this little window is going to pop up. Under machines, you're going to go to machine calibration, and you're going to select the device that you're working with and then click start. And it will walk you through the steps. This will help us get the most accurate cuts for all of our print and cut projects. You only need to calibrate your machine for print and cut projects or projects that use a knife blade. There's no other reason to calibrate. So let's click that green button and get started. So the first step, it's going to ask me to pick my printer. And you can see there's different printers listed here. So make sure you're choosing the correct printer. And then we're going to print. This is going to come out of my home printer, and you can actually hear it printing in the background because part of the print and cut process is printing from your home printer because your Cricut doesn't print. So here you can see the printed out calibration sheet, and it has numbers going across the top and letters down the side. Then there's a large rectangle with a smaller square inside. That's because we're going to calibrate our machine, and then there's a fine tuning of that calibration. So we're going to need to cut multiple things to really tighten up that print and cut area. Now it's really important that you put your printed out sheet in the upper left corner of your cutting mat, orientated in exactly this way so that you see the numbers across the top and the letters going down the side. So once we have it printed and we have it orientated on our mat correctly, we're going to click continue. And here it's even showing us how to place it. Now we click continue again, and I am connecting via Bluetooth. Now it's telling us to make sure we have our fine point blade in the clamp, and then we'll press that double arrow button to load our mat into the cutting machine. So now we're back at the machine, and you can see I'm going to press that double arrow to load the machine. Then the C button starts to blink. And when we press that, the Cricut is going to pull the whole cutting mat into the machine. And then a little light's going to come on, and it's going to scan those registration marks. This is really important for print then cut. It's scanning so it knows where to cut. This process does take some time, but it's truly important if you want to get precise cuts. If you think I'm just going to skip this and go straight to cutting, that's where you're going to get all the problems where you have your design in one spot and then it's cutting slightly off to the left or right. The reason I didn't speed up this video or edit some of this out is I want you to see real time how long it takes. I would hate to have you think, wait, that only took Sean 2 seconds to do. And then you do it and think, I must be doing something wrong because it's taking a while. Be patient. Trust me, it's worth it. Now, once it's scanned all the registration marks, it's cutting that innermost square. And now we have to go back to Cricut Design Space and see what it's telling us to do. I do want to show you what's going on back in Design Space while the Cricut is scanning. So meanwhile, while it's scanning, it's reading those registration marks, and that's telling it where to cut. Do you want to point out, this is one of the reasons why you can't do print and cut projects with your Cricut Joy. It doesn't have that little light that came on for scanning. All right, at this point, we have to take a look at how the Cricut cut. And this is very important. Without unloading the mat, we're going to examine the cut line. It's really important that you don't unload your mat at this point, because if you do, you have to start the calibration process all over. What we're doing here is checking to see where that cut line lands in relation to the black little tiny square. Since my cut actually looks even better than this, it's seriously right in the center of the black line, I'm going to proceed to the fine calibration. If yours is more like this, where basically nothing is touching those black lines, then you're going to click no and do a basic calibration. So where you go from here really depends on your results back at the cutting machine. So I'm going to go continue. Now it's cutting again, but this time it's going to be cutting where those 1, 2, 3 numbers are and ABC letters are. Now, in the olden days, Cricut Design Space calibration only did that small center square cut. This second portion is really fine tuning everything. And you can see it's cutting across the top and then it's going to go down the side. And each one of those little cuts, what we're trying to determine is which is going to be the closest to being cut within the line. So it's fine tuning that calibration because some of them might be really off. And then we can tell it, okay, this one seems to be the most accurate. This is also, again, why it's so important through this whole process to not unload your mat. Because if you unload the mat and then reload it, it's like it's shifting the orientation. Okay, time to go back to Design Space and see what the screen is telling us to do. Now that it's done cutting for the fine calibration, without unloading our mat, we need to examine the lines at the ABC and 1, 2, 3s. We're looking for the place where the cut is most centered in that black line. So let's go take a look. So I tried to zoom in here so you can really see what's going on. And you can see if you look around the 4, 5, 6, that those cuts are way to the left. And then as we start to get into 10, 11, 12, that's where things are starting to center up a little bit better. So what I'm doing is marking off like, okay, this one is for sure way off. So then it helps me to kind of fine tune things. I think 12 looks the most centered to me. So now we want to go and take a look down the right side. And again, this is going to be hard to see because I was trying to do all of this without unloading my mat and, getting a good lighting. So sorry if you can't see super clearly, but I do think you can see kind of a white shadow of where the line is. So if I look at letter F, that is above the black line. G is kind of starting to get in the line. H is in the line too, but I feel like I is the most centered. So that's what I'm going with. for mine is 12 and I. Yours are going to be totally different. So do not do calibration and then just use the same numbers I did. You have to look at your numbers. The top line was 12 and the right line was I. This is actually a really good tip. I was rubbing my finger across it to kind of feel where that line was, but if you need to snap a photo so that you can zoom in, I obviously couldn't do that because I was recording at the same time. So now we'll click continue. So now the Cricut will start to cut the larger rectangle shape. So let's head back to the machine and watch that happen. I really do love all the little prompts in Cricut Design Space now with the improved print and cut. So then it tells you exactly what to do and how to fine tune this. The directions really help the process. So without unloading, we need to examine things again. What this cut was doing was this larger rectangle. Not only did I visually check it, I ran my finger across it and I could feel the cut line right down the center. So after I examined mine, it's right in the center. So I'm going to say yes. If you feel like yours is off center, you're going to click no. I'd like to do another calibration. It will then prompt you through the steps to go again. Now my machine is calibrated. So now I can start working on my print and cut projects. Before you go, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. I love to hear from you.